Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Stupid Questions podcast. Today on the pod, we're going to be talking with Dave Barnes. He is a singer-songwriter. He is also a professional podcaster from the Dadville podcast. If you remember, John McLaughlin had him on a number of weeks ago. He is the co-host of that podcast. He's also a stand-up comedian, a number of other things, dad, husband, son. So I really hope you enjoy this conversation with him. No matter where you are listening from, though, do want to ask if you could like, comment, subscribe. That helps continue to grow this podcast. So thank you for being here. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to Mr. Dave Barnes. Does it not do it for you? I wonder if there's a setting that I can turn off then. I'm glad you said that because I've never talked to anyone else who's used Riverside. And if I can turn off that countdown, that would be fantastic.
It doesn't we just party. It just goes. I think it just goes. I feel like it just goes.
If not, I'll give you a hard time. I'll call you.
That's fair. Just bother me.
Yeah. Well, Dave, officially, I want to say thank you so much for making the time for me to be on my humble podcast.
Don't you do that. Don't
excited
you do that,
to get to know you.
Don't make yourself small. Don't do that. Be big.
I'm just telling you what it is. I you know what? It's so funny. I was driving with my wife in the car the other day, and I had this epiphany, which I've kind of thought about internally for a while. But I realized I'm really good at making things seem way bigger than they are, and I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse. Like
you're a natural hype man.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's just
the same. I'm the same.
Yeah, like what is that about? Where did you get your skill for that?
I think it's because I experience things not as they are. I sort of everything is better than it. You should have seen this. It was amazing. Oh my gosh, the funniest story. I had the best hamburger the other night. And it's just it sets you. It's a tough way to live. It's a great way to live in your own body because it really feels like everything has this heightened experience. It's a tough go as a spouse or a friend because they're always like, "All right, man, just let me see if I think. Just let me take a bite." You know, and you're like, "Right, bro," isn't it? And they're like, "That's good. It's a 6 out of 10." Like, nah. Like when you live everything in hyperbole, you know what I mean? You're just constant hyperbole all the time. You know?
Yeah.
It's putting the hype in hyperbole. How about that? That's pretty good.
Hype and hyperbole.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's where it comes from. I would say the root word, Latin. We could go study the Latin of it if we wanted to. I guess.
Let's get weird. So let's see what happens.
You know, it's interesting. I don't know if I've always been that way, but I have a feeling that it was because of this one moment I had in college. I was just about to graduate college. I'd started this business, and through some crazy serendipitous things, I got to know somebody who was big in the business world. He actually co-founded Oakley Sunglasses.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, so I got really lucky I just met his son by happenstance when I was living in the Philippines for a year. We became really good friends. Long story short, I found myself at their house like a year later, and I was talking to my friend's dad. His name was Mike.
Are all of the windows like sunglasses?
No.
Would that not be amazing?
Yeah.
Like, look, there's a UV. We have a UV on every window. This is the sport glasses. These are the,
It was a sick house. I'll say that much. He had this pink granite that they barged in from some place overseas. Who knows? But anyway, he was telling me, he's like, yeah, when it comes to building something, people only know what you tell them. And I was like, huh.
Wow.
And that really affected how I presented myself, kind of probably to the wrong way for a little while. Like it was more of that hyperbole and just being careful with what I did and didn't say. And then as I have gotten older, I'm like, I don't know if I really want to do that. But then I'm realizing in all that I do, I end up making things look, I think, bigger than they are because I like things to look a certain way, to sound a certain way.
Yeah.
But where do you think
fun? It's more fun and interesting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it makes it. I went and spoke right before this. My daughter in her classroom, they had parent work days, like come in and do your sort of like tell us what you do for a living. And one of the girls, because my shows, like I tell a lot of stories and stuff, and obviously my stand-up shows I do. And she was like, "Are those true?" And I was like, "You know what? That is a great question. They're mostly true. Some have fudged for impact, but it's just, I think there's something to making things sound exciting that's really hard not to bite. Not to lie. That's not what I mean, because it's not the expense of anything.
Yeah.
But it's hard not to kind of like. I think some of us are just born kind of like hype men, or hype women, hype people, which sounds like a really bad CCM band from the 90s. But they opened for, like DC Talk in Virginia once. But yeah, it's in my DNA. I have to be careful because I can overdo,
Where do you think you get that from? Is it more from like your mom or your dad, or you were born that way?
Dad, for sure. Dad,
Yeah.
100,000%. Yeah. It's never let what's the line? Never let something get in the way of a good story. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Mm.
And I'm not saying my dad's a liar. He's not at all. But he was a pastor. He's used to being in front of people. He really likes being in front of people, and I do too. And so I think there's, just kind of learn early. Like, man, that story's a little funnier if I just fudge a little there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or So yeah, I don't know. Who knows, man?
Who knows?
Who knows what happened back then?
What specifically do you like about being in front of people?
That is a great question. What do I like about being in front of people? I like the spontaneity of how it feels. Kind of like anything can happen at any moment, and everybody's sort of looking at me for that. I don't know. That is like one of the most profound questions I've ever had to answer, because I don't know what that is. It's not a feeling of like I deserve it. So it's not that energy. It's not kind of like I got the goods. But I do enjoy seeing people laugh and be entertained. You know what I mean? And knowing that I can do that probably fuels a lot of that. Yeah, that's probably the best I got, is just knowing that, like, man, when you say something, they respond. When you sing something, you see them respond. And I do think it's a very rare gift set that people enjoy that. So I do feel a little like weight of like, I should do it because I can. There's not many people that be like, it's that Seinfeld bit about like, it's like one of his oldest bits about how public speaking is, people are more scared of that than death, basically, And so I think for those of us who enjoy it, you kind of feel like, man, we should flex on that, because it's a very rare thing that people really enjoy that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Does it still scare you sometimes though, even though you enjoy it, or not anymore? I guess you're pretty well seasoned in front of people.
It depends on the context if I'm wearing contacts. But like, it's a little bit of that thing where it's like if it's stand up, that is fun but terrifying. Like it especially the beginning of the show. Music, it's just when you've done it this long, it's not. I sort of enjoy the scare now. It's like when I'm like, oh, I actually feel nervous. All right, like that's kind of fun.
It means something to me.
Yeah, it means something. That's right. But it's pretty rare. It's like it's a pretty rare occurrence when I'm like really like nervous, like all caps nervous. But it still is there. I think it's low level. Quite a like probably maybe half the time I'll feel like a little like, oh, okay, but it's not like, oh man, I'm really like I got the butterflies full effect thing. Just from doing it. It's like anything. It's just exposure therapy. It's like the more you do it, you're like, oh, it's, whatever.
Yeah. When did you first start doing stand up? Is that relatively new?
No, I did it. I probably did my first shows 10 years ago, maybe something like that. And kind of slow dripped it, because it was like my manager at the time, who's still a good friend of mine, a guy named Chris DeTrey, was like, hey, I really think I think you got to start. You got to try stand up. Like, you have to. Like, it's not even an option. So I love this. I went to him and I said, all right, here's the deal. I'll do it. It's probably longer than that, actually. It's maybe like 13, 14 years. Like, I will do it, but this is what you have to do. You have to book it at this room. I told him my room. I was like, do 2 nights. It's only 50. It's a black box here in Nashville. It's 50 people. You book it. Do not tell me when you book it, because I will get out of it. So book it, confirm it, then tell me. I'll give you a bunch of dates. And I mean, it happened exactly like I thought. He called me. He's like, all right. I mean, I don't know what dates it was. February 21st, 22nd. I was like, I don't know, man. He's like, no, it's locked. You can't move it. And so I did 2 nights, and it was really fun. And the rule was I invited everybody. Like, I hit friends up and was like, I need safe people out there to tell me,
Am I good? Am I bad?
Yeah, and enough people were like really encouraging, like really good friends who would tell me the truth. And it was pretty much, everybody was like, you should definitely at least try this more. I mean, there's definitely a nugget of something in there. And then I did, I don't know, probably 15 shows that were just like, at city wineries and stuff.
Yeah.
That were just stand up. And then I did a tour that was really fun. That was 45 minutes of music, a 15-minute intermission, then 45 minutes of stand-up. And did that at the Ryman here. I don't know, we did probably 15 of them, maybe, across the states. And it was really fun. It was a really, And it's weird? I mean, at the risk of sounding like kind of that guy, I don't know that anybody's ever done that. I was like, I mean, Jim, what's his name? Jim Brewer, John, what's his name that does like, he was on SNL. He always played the guy that was really high.
J-
You know what I'm talking about?
John? I think so.
He was the guy that was in the Dave Chappelle Weed movie back in the day. Jim Brewer, right? Jim Brewer.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
He does a tour where he'll like play songs and tell, but it's like funny songs too. And so I qualified that statement I said by the fact that it was like legitimate music and then legitimate comedy, not sort of like funny song about whatever and then some jokes. Like it was like a concert and a stand up
like really
show.
interwoven.
Yeah. And it was really fun. And every now and then I do them now. I've kind of been doing the same set, which is kind of a cheat code because that's not what you really do if you're a comedian. You have new jokes for every kind of new year or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just don't do it enough to do that. I've got a ton of stuff that I could do. I have a note that's got tons of new material, but I haven't worked it up or figured any of it out. But I really enjoy it. It's by far, of any kind of performance, it is the most exhilarating and terrifying. And like, the thing I learned is, the flow of a stand-up show is so intense because every second you're not talking, the crowd is kind of going, what's happening? Am I okay? Is he okay? Is this purposed silence or should I be nervous? Is he nervous?
Yeah.
And so you really have to learn like the beats, and every room's beat is different because the crowd size changes how long you have between
the
bits
energy
or
they
whatever.
bring in.
Yes. And so, playing the Ryman was wildly different than playing a city winery in, Chicago or something because, it's city winery. It's like, ha, 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 dead. And you're off again. Ryman, was sold out. It was like 2,400 people. So it's like laughter takes like 5 to 7 seconds. And so then you have to figure out physically, like, what am I doing? Like, I know that sounds dumb, but
to fill that space
and just how do I look comfortable for 5 seconds? That's really what you're asking. So that the crowd is relaxed because the minute they think, oh, he's not prepared, then they're nervous.
take a drink of water.
Yeah. And, like kind of just walk a little back and forth, laugh with the crowd. And it's a really interesting sociological experiment, but it's really fun. I mean, I haven't done it in a minute, but it's really, really fun.
So do you think the best comics in the world are better at like you're saying, like feeling what the room is currently and then adjusting based on that? Or is there an art to creating an atmosphere depending on whatever show you've booked, like prior to?
Yeah, I think probably some weird combo of both. You know what I mean? Just like realizing that. That's always. I've got to know a few more comics, and I love asking those kind of questions because I'm so fascinated. I'm like, what do you do if you see the room is responding to some things more than others? Like, do you actually change your set? Do you find yourself embellishing those stories more? Do you stick with your set no matter what? And it's really it's such a fun thing. Stand-up comics are a really, really fascinating group of people because it's kind of like, being an assassin or something. It's such a specific set of skills that kind of don't play in any other way but that way, but man, do they work if you know how to do it, It's really, really interesting. And I think, I don't know. Probably both, I guess, like reading the room, but also knowing like, hey, this is my show. I'm going to do my show.
Yeah.
But I've seen a couple shows where you can see that like, oh, you can see the person up there going like, oh, I want to do that more. Okay, how can I do that more? I'm going to double down. I'm going to stay more in that world, even if it's crowd work or whatever that's happening,
Yeah. So explain this phenomenon to me, because I've done a fair bit of public speaking, never in like a context of I'm going to go up and be a comic, but I would consider myself like I enjoy making people laugh. So it's often that when I go up to speak, something will be said and people will laugh and, it'll be good. So when I'm with my group of friends or with your group of friends, like, them well enough to where you can get the reactions and feel the room. And it's very easy to just like if you have a good friend, like you beat off of each other. But then you go over into like a public setting where you're up on stage. Sometimes I have noticed in myself something I was going to say that I thought would be funny in preparation was actually not funny. And then something totally different that I did not think would be funny turned out to be this hugely hilarious thing. What is that? Is that just... Yeah, do you know what I'm talking about? Have you experienced that? Is that a thing?
Yeah. Golly, I think some of it is context, obviously, because people know more about that and they laugh harder than people that are. Because, like, if I'm telling parent jokes, college kids don't know what the heck I'm talking about, but parents are dying. And
the
so
relatability aspect.
I think some of it is relatability. I think some of it too is just, like how confident you're feeling in that moment. Are you really telling the story well? Are you insecure, so you're pulling punches on things? Like you really like, I think some of that matters too. And then if people just know you and like you, right? Like if they want you to win, that's an easy, fun crowd.
Yeah.
Then a crowd, be it at a dinner party or whatever, a church get together. Like, I don't know who this guy is. Like, are you funny?
It's such a relational thing too, because I feel like if people do like you, like they will almost fake laugh to get the train moving. Yeah. I don't know. I've never done it before. I'd be terrified to do it.
I think most of it, I'm not going to say all of it, is confidence.
Yeah.
It's just a real, like, I think if you really believe you're funny, that covers a multitude of sins.
Yeah.
Like because you can even have a joke that's not funny, but if you look unflapped, it almost turns funny. You know what I mean? Because if they're like, wow, that he didn't, and you're just kind of like, well, that's just as funny as the joke would have been.
Yeah.
Seeing somebody be like, well, all right, that's not in the set list anymore. And everybody's like,
yeah.
But I think then going, oh God, people are like, oh, this is not fun.
Yeah.
I don't like whatever the energy this is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something I've observed, especially with a lot of because I feel like stand-up comedy has grown tremendously in the streaming days now.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's talking about, my next
Yeah.
special or whatever it is. Oftentimes those seem to be circled around like the current events of what's going on. Similarly, I think to a lot of music artists that are true, like singer-songwriters, like they'll write about what's going on in their life. If you were to write a new set list of jokes, what do you think it would center around that's going on in your life right now?
It would be a lot. It's like a lot of I'm getting older and I don't know how to deal with it. It's a lot of like kids stuff, and funny stories from kids. It's marriage, and kind of in your 40s, late 40s. But it's, a lot of my humor is sort of it's like self-deprecating. It's like, I'm such an idiot. Why did I think that would work? Or, but yeah, it's very age appropriate to where I am. It's not, my humor is, all humor at some point is observational, but it's not so much me seeing other people doing things and thinking it's funny. It's a lot more like, why do I do this? What is wrong with me? Do you guys do this? Isn't that weird that we do this? Do you do this? Or do you ever have this thought? Because I just feel like I'm always taking notes on like, what was that about? Like I noticed John and I laughed about this in Dadville a few months ago, but like I'll do this weird thing where a lot of mornings when I get up, I just kind of go outside on my front porch and just sort of like stand there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I doing? It's like, and I think, 300 years ago, you would have like if you had like a castle, you'd have done that. Or if you owned, 100 acres of wheat, you'd sort of look out and drink how is the wind blowing today? How do the conditions look for farming? But I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what am I looking for something? Is it like I just need people to see that this is my house and I'm here to protect it from whatever hopes to assail it? I don't know what I'm doing, and so it's things like that. I'm like, what is that? Why do I do that? And I love it. Something about like, I'm going to just kind of walk out. Or if it's cold, I'll just kind of look outside. And then he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. What's going on out there? Anything we do? I'm like, I didn't do that a year ago. But now it's like definitely in the things I do in the morning. What is that about? It's those things.
I like peeing off my back porch.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. I'd want to do it off my front, but I think
You might get arrested.
There might be some cops involved in that.
How old are you?
47.
47. So I'm 34.
Young buck.
Young buck. Yeah, I'm not feeling so young anymore. I don't feel like I feel fitter than I've ever been. However, At the same time, I feel older inside in my mental capacity than I ever have before. I think it's just because we're about to have our first kid. So
Yeah. It is. Yes, I remember those days.
Yeah. Who would you say in a third person perspective, like who is Dave?
Man, what a great question. I think in this season of my life, I think a Christian, definitely that matters the most to me. I think also a husband, a dad, a friend, a son, brother, and then somewhere down there, singer-songwriter, comedian, podcast guy, Soccer lover. Let's go Arsenal Football Club.
Awesome.
It's yes, a lot of things, you know. It's like a lot of things. Isn't that weird when you think about your life? You're like, I'm this sort of accumulation of a lot of things in one person. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. A lot of depth, a lot of history.
Yeah, and it's just a lot of hats. It's like a lot of ways that you walk through the world, even as one just human. It's like I said, just those off the top of my head, which are the same. It's like you just have all these things and how you relate to people and they relate to you and you relate to God and you relate to your job and whatever. You know, I'm a church member. I'm an elder at my church. I mean, there's a lot of things. It's like, it's a lot of stuff, you know?
So let me ask you this question. When people look at you, what do you think that they see and what do you want them to see?
A lot of handsome is what I want them to see. That depends on like tan. If I've been eating too much pizza, that'll affect that. You know what I want them to see is joy. I think that's something I've really realized over the last few months is, I think when I think of who I am, I think God really made me someone that likes to spread joy, you know, and that sounds real, like, I spread joy, you know, but I really do think that like, that is one of my superpowers is just, I just like joy is kind of my gasoline. I love that. And I think I like giving that to other people. And I think that may even answer your first question, Seth, is like, I think that's one of the reasons I like crowds. I love giving them joy. I just like, and again, not in this sort of, there's nothing that sort of bristles me more than like that sort of like cheap joy. Well, just a joy. I just love giving joy, and I'm out there. But I mean real joy, like life-changing joy, like joy that you feel and can change your mood and really affects people. Like I think joy is a force. I really do. It's a powerful thing. It's a weapon for good.
Can bring peace.
That kind of joy. Yes, it's such an incredible thing. It's an incredible thing. It's a neurologically, physiological effect. It does things. It manipulates your body. You know, it releases hormones and chemicals in your brain that make you feel better. It's an incredible thing.
Yeah.
And I think the more I learn that, the more I get excited about bringing it into the world, you know, because I think it's a pretty natural thing for me to have and distribute, you know?
Yeah. So if I was to sit, how many kids do you have?
3.
3 kids. And what's their ages?
They're 14, 11, and 9. Okay.
If I was to ask them like, hey, what does your dad do? What do you think they'd say?
That was funny because that's what happened with my daughter today when they were like, I think they would say, you know, he's a singer-songwriter. He makes music. I think they'd say pretty much what I said, you know.
Yeah.
He like does music. He has a podcast. Yeah, he sometimes does stand-up shows. Yeah, I think that's what they'd say.
Are you an entrepreneur? Do you consider yourself one?
No.
Really?
No, I'm not. I mean, I am in that I own my business and I have for the last 25 years or whatever. And I you know, maintain that, whatever that means.
Yeah.
But, you know, when I get around my friends who are real entrepreneurs, I'm like, I'm not like making money and trying to figure out how to do new things with it. I'm like, you know, I'm just thrilled that I'm making money.
Yeah.
You know, like we're able to do what we want and, you know, pay the bills we need to pay and, you know, save and all the things tied, whatever we're doing. But like, you know what I mean? When you get around those guys and girls who are like, all right, man, I just got this thing I've just invested in and we're doing this thing. And it's so exciting. I mean, one of the most entrepreneurial people I know in the world is Drew Holcomb. And if I hang out with Drew too much, I just have so much shame. None of which he means to inflict, but he's just like, oh, dude, I invest in this thing, and I got a bourbon company, and I have this golf course, and also we're doing this thing we tried this new company with a bus thing where we take people on and I was like, that is what an entrepreneur is. Like that's all caps entrepreneur, and I'm not like that. I'm not. Yeah. You know what's funny, and maybe this is too weird and deep to say, but
no, please say it.
I realized something about myself. I don't move through life trying to take on responsibility. And I think you can say I can think of that in a shameful way, but I'm just not built. I don't have an affinity. I don't move toward like that sort of entrepreneurial thing. That's why I bring it up. It's like I have friends. I was hanging out with a friend of mine who's in music, and he's, you know, we hadn't seen him forever. And we were catching up, and just like when you hear him talk, he moves toward responsibility. He's like, how can I build new things? When he meets an artist he likes, he takes them under his wing. They write a lot. He starts making their music with them. He'll connect them to other friends of his. They kind of get brought into his family even for seasons, because he's like, this is something I want to give my time to help cultivate and create. I have none of that. I don't want any of that. I'm like, I would love to help you. I will be here. I'm a huge resource to you, but I'm not really trying to add things to my life that I need to sort of shepherd and take care of. If anything, I'm probably trying to minimize those. And so it's funny because I think, and it really, like, getting in the car, I could actually call my wife on the way home, and I was like, I think I learned something about myself, which probably anybody that knows me knows, but I just haven't ever put words to, which is, because I can feel a lot of shame around that. Because like I've had so many friends of mine that I met on the road that I helped get their career started, and I never wanted any piece of that. And I think some of that's really great. I'm proud of that. Like, I never wanted to be the guy that's like, kid, I'll get you to Nashville as long as I got that 15%. And some people do that, and that's great. And some of those things have worked incredibly well for my friends and blessed everybody involved. But I don't know. That's not what I'm trying to do. Like, I want to help. I'd love to help. I've helped so many people's careers, but I'm not like trying to
Motivated
pull, I'm not trying to pull them into a stable that then I sort of have purview over and sort of some piece of ownership for, because I don't like that. I don't like maintaining things. It stresses me out. I'd rather go create and then move. And so sitting that day, it was actually a good revelation getting in the car that afternoon, because I was like, there's a way I could shame myself and be like, think of all the money you could have made if you'd have just leaned in like he has. But then I was like, I don't want that. I'm old enough now to know things about myself that are helpful things. They aren't sort of like, oh, should have. I'm like, no. If you give me that chance 100 times, I'm not doing it. So then that's a fool's errand for me to be like, if you don't only, it's like, well, I wouldn't. There's no only. I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And so, when I think of entrepreneurship, I'm like, yeah, it's just not. I would love to be on boards for startups to start up. I would crush that. But the minute I have to have responsibility, you will be like, Barnes has really stopped showing up for the meetings.
Yeah.
It's just not, which is something I need to grow in. I'm not saying I shouldn't do that.
Well, why do you say that? Why do you need to grow in it?
Because I think just part of being mature is, just knowing there's things you have to do sometimes that don't probably fit your skill set. And I've got a lot of that in my life. I mean, I have kids, for Pete's sake, that I'm doing many things I don't want to do that I'm glad to do. But, I wouldn't really go, I want to drive 30 minutes to a soccer game that's, 45 degrees outside and watch my son, who I love watching. Like, that's not, I'm like, is that my favorite thing to do? Nah. I don't know many dads would say that. Some crazy ones. But, so I think some of it too is just knowing as I get older, there's things that I need to lean into. I heard a guy say this once, and I think it's really good. Men make commitments that them make them, and I think that's a really great thought. And I think that's something I'm kind of learning as I get older is, what does it look like for me to kind of lean in on some things and stick with it, to know that that's okay. I'm just really careful with my time. Like, autonomy is the most important thing in my life as far as that stuff goes.
Yeah.
And I've managed in my life to keep it all, basically, other than the things that really, really matter. And I'm glad to give my time to, but in an occupational sense, I guard it really carefully. And I just think sometimes especially as I get older, I feel like I'm having to learn, like, sorry, man, this is just something you got to do. It's good to do. It'll be good for you. Or they just need you to do it, and you don't get to kind of keep that like I want to, which is good. It's maturity, it's growth. But that's a really weird answer to your question. Sorry.
That was a great answer. I appreciate it. It gives me a lot of context for how to frame some of these other questions. But on the topic of like figuring out, what your life would look like from an autonomy perspective, I imagine you didn't have that much clarity 20 years ago, or even a little bit more than that, I guess, like coming out of school, focusing on like, oh, I want to do music industry stuff. I want to write first. Then you started figuring out like, okay, you want to actually sing some of your stuff. Mm-hmm. It sounds like at kind of the push from some of your friends. And so, going back, like, when did you start to even think about, oh, I want to maybe pursue music and songwriting or just any type of work in this industry?
I mean, honestly, probably when I was in college and started writing songs, and I was like, man, I love this. Like, this is magic. Like, everything about this engages. I think that's one of the things that's for better or worse, like I can frustrate myself about it. It's just really hard to hold my attention for very long. And I think some of it's just because of the way my brain is wired and how fast it is. It just pings at a insanely high rate. And that's great for things like improv and comedy and songwriting, but it's really it can be really troubling when you're, when you're just trying to commit to things, when it's like, this got kind of boring. My brain's like, let's do something else. And music is constantly fascinating to me. It never ceases to hold my interest. And so I think, when I was 20 or whatever, and I started writing songs, I was like, oh, this is inexhaustibly fascinating to me. And it still is, 20 whatever years later. I'm still just as absolutely obsessed with it and fascinated by it. Maybe more now than I have ever been, because like the more I find out about it, the less I realize I know, And so I think, that was kind of the beginning is when I started writing songs. And then that really was when I got the bite. And then so we moved to Nashville, my best friend and I, and I did like a couple of, but I was starting to play out kind of around the Southeast because I had friends at colleges that like booked me at, their FCA, or they ran a college something and they were like, hey, I can get a room on campus. And I was like, great, that's all I need. Just,
Nice.
Book that room for an hour. I'll come in and play for your friends, whatever. And I just loved it. It was just such a fun, it sort of combined so many things that I liked in one. I was, I did sort of enough talking that it felt like comedy. I played my songs, which, I was very passionate about. I was in front of people. I got to hang out with people afterwards. I'm a pretty extreme extrovert. So it just kind of scratched all the itches. And I think that's when I really kind of knew in college, moving to Nashville, I was like, yeah, I think that's probably going to be, well, I just knew. I was like, that's what I want to do if I can. I want to be like all these heroes that I have in music and write songs and play shows. And if I could write for other people, that'd be fun too.
Yeah.
And then, moved here and God was just so kind to let all those doors open and, and it's crazy. I remember like a few years into living here when somebody asked me what I did, I was like, yeah, like that's all I've done. They were like, you have like wait tables? I was like, since 2001, 2002, the only job I've ever had is doing this,
Wow.
It's crazy, Yeah.
Would you do it the same way over again?
Yeah, I would. It was really fun. I mean, there's some things that like, I don't know. Yeah, there's not any part of my career that I'm like, man, if I'd have done that different, that there are ways that relationships I don't think I stewarded very well, or but I know myself so well, that like one of the things I think about sometimes, like what if I had been signed to a major label, and I'm like, I would have been a train wreck. I was a train wreck for the indie label I signed for. I mean, they were awesome, but
The autonomy piece.
Yes, thank you. That's exactly right. And I've got enough of an independent confidence streak that's great in a lot of contexts, but I just don't know that I did a great job trusting the staff there with how we were handling my music. And I mean, if I'd have been a major label, I talked to my friends that did major label, John and some of those guys, and I'm just like, I would have imploded either at Autonomy and feeling like, I don't want to go do that. I don't want to do that radio show. That's a waste of my time. Like, hey, because that's the game you play, especially back in the 2000s.
Get on the shows, distribute the music.
Yeah, and
sell
just all
record.
the dumb things. You're like, why am I here? Nobody cares. And they're like, well, it's good for, we can add it to our media, content for you or whatever. And so I think I would have been an absolute disaster for those. And so, there's not many things I look back and I really do think I'd do it again the same way. I really love my career. I love where I am. I mean, there's things that I would tweak and, little wishes I have, like, but I think generally it's suited me really well. That's the best way to say it. I think it's really suited me in the way that I work really well.
Not many people can say that. That they don't have like regrets, or, I mean, everyone I'm sure has some level of regret, but to talk about like your career trajectory in such a way where you're like, oh, I don't think I'd change anything.
Well, to be fair, Seth, it's not that I don't envy other people's success or go to a show at some venue and see see one of my friends play and think,
Could have been.
I never got to play this place, or I never got to open for this band or whatever like that. There's a litany of those. But I think what I know from maturity and just life is that you can't have both. Like, and I think the life I wanted to create, the amount of time I wanted to be with my family and friends. And I just knew really early on, like, it's the Andy Stanley has this sermon series from a million years ago, and it's called Choosing to Cheat. And I heard it really early on in my career. And basically, it sounds like a terrible sermon series.
Yeah,
You don't know what it's about.
Like, okay.
He's like, look at all the wives that David had.
Yeah.
It's basically you're always going to cheat either your family or your career. And he said the good thing is that you get to choose. So, if you want your work to thrive, you will cheat your family. If you want your family to thrive, you'll cheat your work. And he's like, look, are there seasons where you need to cheat your family? Yeah, there may be like something you need to do that you go to your wife and say, listen, this is going to be a month, 2 months, a few months where I got to really, but it won't be like this forever. So he's not saying it's not, and I've had some friends that really push back on that. That's fine. But I think listening to that early on, it really impacted me because I was like, if I'm going to cheat, I always want my work to be the things that get cheated. And I don't know if I was wrong or right all the time. I think generally I've been right about that. But I think, it's caused me to have to sacrifice some things, I think, vocationally that, it's hard. It's not like those can be some dark drives home, from either like, my buddy's celebration party for something or a number one song, that whatever, or a show or a tour or whatever. And just had to really stare down like, man, this is when this sucks. This is like the few times a year that I'm like really in my head. But I know from doing this long enough, like they always pass. I'll go to bed that night, get up the next morning, I'm fine. But there's going to be a few hours where I'm like, I feel the weight of my decisions in a way that are just really intense.
Well, what is it that you're mourning exactly? Is it, I did it, I checked the box, I played at that place? Like because these are all just, and this is going to sound almost sacrilegious probably in your industry, but if you played for a Madison Square Garden or whatever, like it really is, it's just a place, but because of the value that we all kind of attach to that thing.
Yeah.
Like, is that what you're mourning? Like
I think it's the for me, and I think there's probably a million different answers for singer-songwriters, but for me, it's never really knowing how far something could have gone. Never knowing like if I'd really like gotten stuck in and given my life to pursuing artistry like a lot of the biggest artists do, could this have been something that was more proliferated? Would it been something where a lot of people would have gone, man, we love this music and we want to get behind it. And so I think that's probably the itch that never really goes away from me. It's not a substantial itch. It's not anything that keeps me up at night. But I think in those moments where I brush up against someone else's version of that, it really sort of comes back to life in those moments of me having to go, golly, that would have been fun if I ever could have done that. Or if this artist ever wanted to write with me or been like flown me out to LA for a week because they're just obsessed with the music and they want to do. And I had versions of that. Like I've been incredibly blessed with those kind of things. But, at the level that sometimes, in my periphery, I see people doing that I'm like, man, that would have been really fun.
Yeah.
And so I think it's that, it's just that. It's like sort of seeing your fingerprint in an industry be more substantial, and be that like they're getting an award for their achievements and they're he's getting into the whatever Hall of Fame or whatever that is. And just knowing, it's just, I don't know. I just made decisions that thankfully I never regret. I mean, I'm so thankful for my life and my relationships that came from those things. But, and I think somebody could easily make the argument like, no, you could have done it and you'd been fine. And maybe they're right. And maybe there was fear in those decisions too. But there's nothing that I miss enough that I ever think I made the wrong decisions, or I have real like capital R regrets, where I'm like,
I doubt you care as much on your deathbed.
Honestly said that is that's the thought. That is the
yourself.
singular thought that I'm just like, and I mean, you hear it a million times, like the guy who's like, man, can I tell you, I just missed it. I thought this was it, and now I'm laying here and thinking, or even in retirement, people going, I think I got this wrong, and I just have too many really wise people that I've either read or listened to or know that have really affirmed the things that I've decided, and not because I made them, but because I saw them make them, or they told me do this or don't do this, that really has made me feel more confident in it. But I think there's just there's going to be friction in my earlier life right now, knowing like this is when it hurts the most.
Yeah. Midlife crisis. That's what it's
Yeah,
for, right?
yes. Like this is where you feel the pull the most. You know?
Yeah.
You just got to power through.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I would imagine if you were to go back to talk to your, I don't know, 15, 17, 20-year-old self, like, and tell him, oh, these are all the things that you will do, like, you'd probably like, there's no way. So it's so interesting because the older we get, that tolerance increases for whatever
that's right.
that
That's
thing
right.
that we experienced.
That's exactly right.
Because like I try to continually tell myself this, like, no, like, because with my work set, I've been more or less been able to kind of live the life of a professional athlete for like the last 5 years. Very fortunate in like my work. I can make up the time that I want and kind of live in this false reality to think that I can do these things. But I keep reminding myself, because I similar to you, I kind of keep grabbing for more. I do gravitate a little bit more toward responsibility or wanting to start something, because I'm always like, oh, it should have been bigger. It should have done this. Should have done this. But I, especially now that I'm having a daughter, like trying to remind myself, like, no, like I've been very fortunate and blessed to have this life curated to where like I can take control of my hours and take that day off if I need to, or go snowboard on a Wednesday, you know, if I wanted to, or enjoy the outdoors, or take my wife to this. Because so many people I know, like, they don't have that opportunity because, you know, they went to college, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with this, but they went down the track, they got them an internship at the big hospital, and now they're a COO of this. And yeah, they make tons of money, but man, they have zero time to call their own. So it's like keeping that balance, because I can think on my deathbed, like, yeah, like I will want that, but it's harder for me as like a entrepreneur wannabe, create that big thing, to be like, oh, I sold this company for $500 million, and it's like, great, all right, here's my $500 million casket.
I know,
you know, is it going to matter?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It is a weird thing. It takes a crazy amount of wherewithal to kind of like, especially at your age, where you really can know enough that early to sort of go, man, is this going to play my life out to know if this is really going to matter? And I don't know. I feel very thankful that for whatever reason, through mentors in my life or whatever was happening in those seasons, that I had enough, I guess wherewithal just to go, at every time that road split, I would go, okay, play this out. You know, my dad did this to me in high school. He'd say, and then what? Okay. And then what? And you realize if you ask that question enough, you're like, I don't know. You know, like, well, okay, I want to sell the company. Okay. And then what? Well, then we'd have a ton of cash. That's awesome. And then what? I mean, like, we have autonomy. That's great. And then what? And you're like, we can travel a lot. Well, great. And then what? And you just start to realize, like, yeah, what is the end game? Because sometimes you will arrive at something that's right. You'll go, oh, that's where I want to go. And then what? Yeah. And then that. And that's why I'm doing it. But I just think that a lot of times it's, you know, to your point, we kind of do these things because we're supposed to, or that's what everybody else has done. But if you know what you value and what you're trying to actually achieve with the things you have, it's just such an easier play, because you're like, is this trying to get to the thing I'm trying to get to? And if it is, then let's do it. If it's not, then let's not do it, you know, no matter what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
And so it can be a really clarifying, it helps with decisions that way, you know, especially at your age and, you know, even 20s, to kind of have a little bit of a direction on what it is you want.
Most people don't know, man.
Yeah. And I think
a lot of my friends at this age still don't know.
Yeah. And I think that's good work to do. It's very necessary work to do.
Yeah.
And I think too, like, being around people doing the thing you want to do is vital. Like sitting with the 50-year-old guy that's, you know, if you want to be an entrepreneur, that's like a really great entrepreneur, going, hey, can I just get coffee? And I just want to hear, you know, and if you're sitting there going, this sounds miserable, it's like, that's probably a good thing to stop and go like, well, is that what I want? Or why is it that I think I want to be that? And has he got that? And he doesn't look happy. That's a very valuable thing to figure out, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Like now that we're having this conversation, I'm kind of putting a few of the pieces together. I was already aware of this, but it's given it a new level of flavor and insight. It's that, you know, so my dad passed away when I was 16, quite tragically, like he took his own life. So there was this very big absence in my life from like and I was a late bloomer too. So I, you know, really mentally, I was probably like 14, 13 and a half maybe. But I had this just big void that I was very aware of, like, of men in my life. And I think because of the inner drive, like I want to prove myself, I was very driven to figure out who are the men I need to surround myself with.
Yeah.
And I don't think I had the forethought to know the kind of men that I should have surrounded myself with, but I was very blessed to have a lot of really good mentors who, like some of my friends' dads, they were just really hard workers. Some of them were really good stewards. Some of them were really good family men. Some of them were, whatever. And so as I've gotten older, I've been so fortunate to even have to know some people who've been billionaires, and not all of them, but some of them have told me, some of them even on their deathbed, like this one guy, I think he's worth probably at least 300, 400 million, had a real estate empire that he built up, got a brain tumor. He's on his deathbed, basically, like he had months to live. And he was meeting with me. I think now that I think about it, I think he was meeting with me because he felt like he needed to give something back. So I got to observe this 6-month window, and he's losing his mind essentially, but he's giving me some of this insight. And really what it all came down to is at the end of the day, he was basically like, it's not worth it. Just do what you love, be with the people you love. And that's really what it all comes down to. And I was just and that was beating so hard against the 20 something or early 30s something oh, go out and change the world and leave your name on a mountain and rah, 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 so it's,
well, I think the thing that I feel like I've learned, and I think it's true, is that I think we underestimate that success scales. It just scales. There's no success that stays where it is. It always scales. And so the minute that you've gotten to that place, you're like, oh, I used to define that as success. It's not there anymore. Now it's the next. Yeah. It's like, I see it over there now. And you're like, all right, I'll get over there. And it keeps moving. And so I think that's the dilemma. And I think that's where wisdom really helps us, is going and that's where, and then what helps is so you get that. I promise you're just going to go, well, now that I'm here, though, look, now I can see the next little rung. And it takes a weird person to kind of go I'm actually pretty content, I feel pretty good where I am.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. It's really unsettling in such a beautiful way to be around people like that. Actually, that's such an interesting energy,
Yeah. It's different. It's totally
really
against
different.
the grain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bear with me just a second. I have to pee super bad.
Go pee.
I'll be right back.
Be free and pee.
We're back.
How you feeling?
Literally, I was I had unbuttoned my pants. It was so intense. I swam before this, and I was drinking a ton, and then I'm also sipping on this tea, and I was like, oh no, what am I gonna do? I literally undid my belt.
This all comes down to this never ends like you want it to.
Yeah, it is what it is. Even the greats go pee during their podcast. Usually 2 hours in, but 45 minutes will make it at work. So something that you've mentioned over the past 45 minutes several times has hinted toward your relationship with a higher power, God.
Yeah.
In your belief there. So a couple of questions. First is, how old were you when that became a real thing for you? Because I grew up in somewhat Christian household, was encouraged to take on, this belief system. And then, when I was 21, I kind of figured it out for myself and started to ask the questions and go through that. So for you, when did it become something for you that was real?
I mean, this is going to sound so cheesy, but it just kind of never stops. For me, it's it levels up every year in some way. So even if I think, God willing, I live to be 85, I think I'll look at my 47-year-old self and be like, that's so funny. I thought I knew the Lord so well then. and to know how well I know him now, which is just his kindness. But I think college was, like I've always been really fortunate, man. I've just had really good friends my whole life. And I think I've just always been surrounded by guys who just really took their walk with God really seriously and very intentional about it. So I can't really think of a time where I wasn't, that wasn't the case. And so it was always there. It was always something that mattered. It was always something that was important to me. But I think, with every year I've lived, it's just become more important because life gets harder. And then you have, you get married and then, or you have a job and then you do that and then you get married and that, it's like, oh, I got to figure that out. And Lord, how do I do this? And then kids, Lord knows. And it's so fun. And you're about to experience all the joy of that. But, it's just a lot. It's like, you just get to more, I'll say me, I've just gotten to more and more places where I don't know what to do. And there's no manual for it except, I believe the Bible is. And so it's more real every year because it's like, I don't know what I'd do without that, But I think college probably was my first real, like, oh man, I'm doing it. Like I say I believe these things and I think I'm kind of living like I believe them, and I'm making decisions now on my own that aren't influenced by my parents that like really are in line with this belief set. So yeah, probably then, but it's, it's always been some version of that as I've been in college and from then on.
Have you ever struggled with any doubt with like?
No.
You're a very peculiar person, Dave.
Let me say this. Let me qualify that. I think smart people have doubts. And so I think I don't know that I'm smart enough. I don't know that I'm smart. I remember we have one of our kids was struggling with anxiety a few years ago, and we were taking him to Raising Boys and Girls here in Nashville, which is an incredible counseling therapy practice for kids. They're the best. They're the GOAT of the industry, I think. And I remember David Thomas, who's a dear friend now, but he's one of the two people that run it. And David was like, what we find? He's like, here's the encouragement with your kid. Smart kids have anxiety. And I was like, that's funny. That's why I've never had anxiety as a kid. I was just bar. But I mean, I'm kind of joking, but it's kind of true. I don't know. I just don't doubt it. It's just too, I just think if people had seen what I've seen, I don't know how you would doubt it. Now I have doubts about like what things actually mean or like what God wants me to do or if he's going to do something I want him to do. Lord knows. But no, I've just never doubted that. It's the most real thing. Yeah, it's like the most real thing I know. But man, let me say this. So much of that is to my parents and how incredible they are. Their faith, I say this all the time, their faith was and still is an extremely functional faith. It is not bells and whistles. It's not huge emotions. It's just, this is the right thing, and that's why we do it, and it works. And so for me, that was the water I sort of swam in as a kid. Like, it was just like, my dad was a pastor. He's an incredible man. He was not one of those guys that you read these awful stories about. So it was a very real thing in my childhood. And I think, and I was just blessed to not, in those really formative years of my faith, there wasn't things that made me doubt that it would be real. It was only things that confirmed its truth, and which is, I have nothing to do with. That's just God's plan for my life for whatever reason. And so now it's like, I mean, it's so real. It's just unbelievably real. And the reason I believe it is because it just life, it makes sense to me through that lens. It's just everything really coalesces in a way that feels true to me. It's like, just makes sense of so many things or gives reason to things that help me understand it. And not to mention just the ways God has blessed me and moved in my life or talked to me or whatever, So I've struggled with it, but I don't think I've ever had a doubt,
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So if you could have like God right now in front of you and get an immediate answer for any question, what question do you think you would ask him?
Oh, what a great question. Oh man. It'd be something really selfish. It wouldn't be like my wife would ask something so benevolent or something so others focused. and mine would probably be something about my work, something really selfish and on the nose. Like, is this going to work? Do I need to get another job in the next 10 years? Like, am I going to be able to pay the bills with this music career that seems to be crumbling? And not for me. I'm not. It's just, it's hard for everybody in this industry now. So I think it's a little bit of like, I think I'd probably just be really selfish. Be like, should I be doing other things with my time, or is this going to work out? Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I think I just know the Lord enough to know He would never do that. He would just never.
Well,
be like,
someday He will. Like
He will.
second coming, you
Touche.
get to have that. You
Touche.
get to have that
Touche.
opportunity. Yeah. You probably won't
that's
care
a good
about work
question.
then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amen to that. Amen to that.
Yeah. You mentioned music industry is really hard right now. I would assume, but I don't want to assume too much. I want to know exactly why. But like I was doing some research prior to this interview just on how music artists make money, and I was read this that on streaming alone.
Do they?
Yeah, some money. Like streaming payout per stream, like on the publishing side, averages between like 0.0006 and 0.001 cent per stream.
Yeah.
Like so, a million streams is like $600 to $1,000 maybe.
Yeah, I'm publishing it.
So in this world of like how the media exists now, where it seems less focused on the big labels and all that stuff, is it better or worse as a whole for the music artiste?
The streaming thing.
Yeah, streaming everything. Like what I guess, and yeah, the broader question, like what is harder now about the industry than it was even 10 years ago?
That's a wonderful question, but it's the wrong question because I would need 3 hours. I think globally what's tricky about it is, oh man, I have to really consolidate these thoughts.
Don't consolidate. We can always do a round two. You can take the rest of the time for this one if you want.
Geez, you're falling asleep, and I'm like, and that leads me to point 72. This one's in English. I think that a couple things, and this is a really broad sweep, but I think a couple things are especially problematic. One, just the payment. So,
You don't value it.
There's just not. Well, that's true, and well, let me say this first because you're right, and I wanted to speak to that. I think it's hard because the old ways of making music and making money, they weren't perfect either, but they were at least substantial enough that, I told this today at this job thing that my daughter had me come speak to her class about. Like, when I started my career, I had CDs that I paid about $1.50 to make. Now that wasn't kind of the production I put into the record, but let's don't think about that right now. And then I'd sell them for $10 to $15. So, if you do the math, let's say $10 I made on a record sold. You went and played a show and sold 100 CDs. That's $1,000. Like that's a nice little, for a kid who, costs $300 a month for me in rent. I mean, that's a slam dunk, and that's one show, so if I went and played, do the math. I mean, you figured out. It's like, so it kind of felt like what you killed, you ate. If you had good music that you went and promoted really hard and people liked and you played enough, you kind of made as much as you worked hard to make. You know what I mean? I mean, that's wildly over stating, because you have to be good and people have to like it and you have to put on good shows. There's a lot of things baked into that, but generally that's a thing. Mm-hmm. And so, if then the show would grow. And so not just was the venues bigger, so you're getting paid more, but then you're selling more merchandise to the back because there's more people there. And so it just felt like a system that was like, sure, things broken. Yeah, but like it's doable. This is a very doable thing, right? And for years, that's how I made my living. And it was a great living. I wasn't swimming in cash, but I was very easily able to live my life. And so now what's hard is that there's just not, it just doesn't feel like you don't kill what you eat if you even kill anything, or you may kill a herd and then you don't get to eat any of it. So to stay with that weird analogy. So I think now what's hard is music doesn't literally have value. Like very monetarily, it doesn't have value. You aren't paying for music. And this was years ago. They used to say it was 70,000 songs were released a week on Spotify, but now I think that's 3 or 4 times that. Wow. And so there's also no quality control, where you think of so many industries where it's like, I'm going to see this movie because This is actually a pretty good analogy. Imagine going to your local theater. There's 15 movies on, 10 movies for a nice even number. And 2 of them are home movies. 3 are paid, you pay it was a Marvel movie. And then 1, but you're paying the same money to get in. You pay $10 for the Marvel movie, you pay $10 for the home movie. It's like, so it's not, there's nothing going, hey, this is really good music, everybody. Like, they paid a lot of money to make it. It's very high level quality. The songwriting is great. The performances are great. This is money. This is hobbyists that are really great, but this is not, everything's together. And so it's exciting because, for the young person, you have a chance to really succeed at something quicker because there's nobody that's keeping that from happening like labels used to do. But the problem is for the people who've done it for a long time that are really skilled at it, there's not really a reward for that as much anymore. And so, I had a conversation with my good buddy about this long ago, and he's like, I think the most troubling thing is really 2 things. One, that music, because it's free, it's devalued. Like, people don't value, like, literally people don't think it's worth money anymore. So that's a fun thing if that's your job. And then the second thing is, he said, we're competing now in a live context and even a recorded context against Netflix and TikTok funny videos. And I love, this is his point. He's like, my 3-minute song, as good as it is, and this guy's an incredible artist, will never compete with 45 seconds of funny on TikTok. It won't. It's like you can talk about it chemically even, but it's not going to do in 45 seconds what, you have to sit and listen for 3 minutes and engage. And that's not what our culture does anymore. And so I just think we're training people to not, everything that people are getting good at doesn't work in a music context, really.
Yeah.
It's pretty terrifying. Now, listen, as a Christian man, I know that it's going to be okay because God's in control, even if that means I have to get another job at some point. But it's a pretty scary outlook, and I think, and I feel weirdly encouraged when I talk to my friends who actually have like real jobs, because they'll ask that question. They'll be like, hey, just read me in on what's going on. And I just feel so seen, because they're like, how are you doing this? And I'm like, I mean, I'm blessed that I've been in it for a long time, so I've got enough things going on that I can make it all work. But as far as longevity, I mean, I think if I was an 18-year-old kid, it'd just be like, have fun for the 5 years you can, but I don't know how anybody's going to be able to do it for a long time anymore, because the industry is literally not set up to, in my opinion, to really cultivate and, steward those careers anymore. It's just not, it's a really weird, but listen, there's some killer things about DSPs. I love that my kids can listen to any music they want to at any moment. That's an incredible thing. I love that it's so easy to find music. I love that, because I love music. I love new music. I love that I can find that at any moment all the time and stay inspired. So, I mean, there's really, really cool. And I think what I do like about Spotify is that I have so many people that never would have known me if we didn't have something like this. Because I think that's the hard thing about careers until Spotify, is that you had your time, you were good, and then you become irrelevant, but the people that liked you in that time keep up with you. You aren't really gaining new fans 30 years ago. You kind of got your unless you were still on the radio. But if you were doing a career that was a little more grassroots, you just kind of kept the people that liked you and you move on with life. But now what's really cool is that, because the music is always sitting up there to listen to, and some kid's on a playlist that one of my songs on and goes, who's this guy? And all of a sudden I have a 17-year-old fan. That didn't really happen 30 years ago, unless your friend gave it to you. Your dad played the record for you. But now you can organically just find so much new music. It's really exciting. But it is it's a really troubling setup. It doesn't, I think, bode well for like the future of people trying to make music.
Unless you're just absolutely gangbusters massive.
That's right.
You get pushed to the top of everything.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I think I read another statistic too that was like, of the top 1 hits for a year, don't quote me exactly on this, I have to look for it to see where that statistic went. But it was like, of the top here it is. Only 5 to 10% of songwriters account for the majority of charting songs in any given year. So it's highly concentrated at the top. Winner takes the most economy. It's like, I feel like there's kind of 2 reasons why that may happen. Obviously, one is like with whenever you attach a computer analysis to streaming services, you can kind of see and do analysis on what kind of songs catch someone's attention and that they want to listen to over and over and over again. And then you kind of have this cheapened, I don't know, it's like feeding everybody junk food. Like everybody loves Twinkies, but then like you have Twinkies all the time and it's like, well, this is the only thing that tastes good unless you like completely remove yourself from the palatization of having that Twinkie. And then you can start to appreciate the taste of broccoli or Johann Sebastian Bach or whoever else.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's really hard to break that. I don't know how you would do that because it's a race to the bottom then because everybody wants the algorithm, and to get to the algorithm you have to make that same catchy line and talk about shaking your butt and grind it on whoever else. And it's like, okay, well that seems to be what works, and there are some breakthroughs, but it's a
I think tastemakers matter more than ever. Like people vetting music and getting in front of people becomes really important because those tastemakers have so many people's ear, and if they say they're good, well, then it's good, and now I know that band is good, which has always been the case, but I would say is even more important now because there's so many people that have eyeballs on them with the social media stuff. But I think, too, it just grieves me because, like, Bohemian Rhapsody would never happen again now. It's too much of an ask, and I think, to your point, it's stake in a slider world, and I think when people are so satiated by sliders, then for you to go, hey, will you sit down and listen to this like 6-minute song, and it's kind of this crazy rock opera, but it's absolutely phenomenal. People are like, first of all, they wouldn't make it through the first section. They'd be like, this is boring. They're like, no, it gets better. Like 3 minutes, it's just a minute. I don't know, the next thing. And so you realize that it doesn't even, music that requires some. Now what's funny is I do think there's plenty of incredible music happening that's so album oriented and incredible, and people are loving it because they don't want, you have enough people like, I don't want Twix. I want something different, So there's always hope, and great music is always great music. It just grieves me that like there's just so many bands that I think should be just massive, but because they don't they kind of don't fit that thing, they don't get a shot really. Because it's like it's not something that they're not on social media enough, or they aren't good looking enough, or they aren't the chorus doesn't pay off by 20 seconds in, and it's just a bummer. And I'm not hopeless at all. I think great music is always going to be great music. I just think as far as making a living at it, really being able to like provide for your family has never been trickier than it is now. And I think that's where you're going to start seeing really great music suffer, and artists that should really have a career doing it now can't do it because it's like it's too Bohemian Rhapsody in a Barbie girl world. And so I don't know. I picked those two, and again, it's not doom and gloom. That's not why I'm saying this, but
no, yeah,
it is a shift in an industry in a very substantial way.
Yeah.
That is pretty catastrophic to people. And you know what? I saw this thing, and this really was troubling me. A friend of mine said this too, but it's basically this guy, and you see these things, and then I go real dark. But he was like, it was this music industry professional, and he was like, artists aren't promoting their music; they're promoting the DSPs. He was like, the DSPs benefit, the artists really don't. Nowhere near the way DSPs do. So when you're out there telling people to listen to Spotify, what you're really telling people is, hey, go listen to Spotify. And I was like, that is, and I mean, you can push back a little because people could have said that about labels. Like, hey, go listen to, and the labels ultimately benefiting. But I just thought, God, that's a really good point, and it's really troubling. But yeah.
I almost wonder, like, just rolling around ideas in my head as I'm hearing this, because back in the days when it's CDs or cassettes or whatever, like there's a scarcity problem. So, they put a number out and then it's like, oh, I want to find that. And then you're like,
that's
hey,
right.
will you burn this CD for me? And then, like the DSP comes out and it's like, oh, well, now it's democratized and anybody can get ahead of it. I wonder if there's any way to where you could get a certain level of popularity enough to where you could have a marketing be like, hey, this album is only going to be played live. And like, or some kind of situation where it's like you can only hear this if you're there, and so you build a culture around like people who are just.
Well, it's what you said. I think the hope is, one of my dear friends did this, guy named Thad Cockrell. He had a direct consumer model. It was $100 to buy his LP or buy his record. It's a killer record. That's the biggest deal. Is it's really good. So he paid money to have it made, produced. I mean, it sounds really good. Killer mixes. So it's a great product, which it has to be. But he just told his fans, like, look, it's $100, and I can give you 100 reasons why it's worth $100, but it's $100. It's not going to be on the DSPs for a long time if you want this music. And he's done great.
Yeah.
Like, he's made money. He's made great money on this record. And so I think, to me, it's the hope is direct consumer, but also what I would say is, I think especially people my age, in their 40s that have done this for a long time, there's a lot of people who want to pay you for it. And I think one of the biggest problems is there's no way to have interaction monetarily with your fans other than live music anymore, or T-shirts. Like, the biggest way that you would get money was exchanged was your music. Mm-hmm. And now that's not a way anymore. And I think what's hopeful is there's plenty of people. I am this way. If my favorite artist came to me and said, hey, I've got this great new way that you can buy something from me. If I like them, I'm like, bro, I'm in. Like, what is it? Especially if it's music, And so I think that's what is hopeful. I just don't think we figured out quite yet how to do that as an industry, because it means you're pulling away from DSPs, which is really scary for a lot of people, But it doesn't mean you can't release it later. Like, I've seen that a guy that I know from London just did this, where he released the LP first the record for the first few months, and then it just came up on Spotify, I think, this week. So there's ways you can do it, but I just think that are hopeful. I do think people want to pay for things they love, and especially things they want to support. Like, I think that's how we're all wired, is like when we find a brand we love, we like buying it because we like the brand. Or if we, find a restaurant we love, we tend to go because it's not just the food we like the thing they're doing, and we want to support the thing they're doing, so they keep doing it, And so I do think there's hope for artists that way. I just think there's not quite a model yet that really works that way, Yeah,
I really wonder, man, like with Spotify, because everybody knows Spotify, and I think that's probably where 60% of the traffic comes from. I don't know what it is exactly, but when you're looking at the rates, like it costs money to run servers that host this to be available anywhere in the world. I don't think that that's not the case, but it seems like, with anything in tech, the profit margins are just so incredibly high. I want to know if you could change it from every stream being 0.0006 to 0.01 or something closer to that model, that they would still be able to keep afloat, because a lot of those tech companies, like it's some IT jobs. What else is it? I don't know. I'm sure that they have big teams, but like, does it need to be that big you could put your heart and soul behind what you're actually doing, which is the music artist? So let's push that a little bit more. I don't know. It seems like it's just a profit machine that they've cornered a market.
If somebody asked me what they would do, if Daniel X sat with me and said, Dave, I will heavily consider the next thing you advise for Spotify, of course I'd say pay more. But the second thing I would say is, would you just start a platform that is Spotify Pro, and everything on there is heavily vetted music that is professional music, and it costs a little more, but that's where that's like walking in a record. That's Tower Records. Over to the left is Spotify. That is, anybody can put up any music all the time. And if you start seeing things trend there, guess what? It gets bumped to Spotify Pro, because you see, like, okay, this is a great artist that needs a bigger platform. They get moved. But I just think even that would help. I just think even some sense of like, this is the place where people who are invested, this is their career. They have, pedigree for this. They've been around for a minute. And then the other stuff can live in its own thing, because I just think the enormity of it is just so insane, Mm-hmm. And so there's not, I don't know, I just sometimes feel like the kind of not everybody, some people really do well with that, but I know, it just makes it tough. It makes it real tough,
Yeah. I just had another idea. Tell me if you think this is absolutely crazy. I would assume a lot of people in the music world, right?
Yeah.
So artists, singer-songwriters, get them together, be like, hey, we're all going to buy tickets, a plane ticket to Stockholm, and we are going to show up on this day, and we're going to put on a concert out in front of their headquarters or something like that, just to get their attention and be like, hey, would you take a meeting with us? And then, like, here's what we need to happen. If you don't, we're going to start a competing service or something like that. I don't know. Like, get their attention. Like, I don't know if that probably wouldn't work.
That thing is just so far down. I do think this, though. I will say this. I really believe, and I mean, this may be a foolish thing to think, but I really sincerely believe that in the next 5 years we'll start seeing some really interesting competition for that come about. I really do.
Hope so.
I think there will be enough because I've talked to numerous people who are working on that, and they're all working on different versions. But it encourages me because I think there's just people who are like, I think it'd be fun to have some other way to do this.
Yeah.
And
it always happens.
So who knows?
Yeah. So last question for you, last serious question. What is taking up the most mental bandwidth for you right now?
Oh, just provision. All things monetary provision,
Yeah, like I got to provide.
Yeah, just knowing life costs a lot of money. I'll say this though, I had a really good talk with a friend of mine last night about this very thing. That it's supposed to be like this right now though, and we've had some really wise men on Dadville, and even in just conversations that I've had with older, wiser men, and they're like the 40s and kind of early 50s, it's the hardest years of your life. As a dad, and that's all I'm talking about. I don't know what moms are going through or women, but they're just like this. It's the worst. It's your kids are hard. Your marriage is struggling from those things. It can be a wonderful marriage like mine, but it's just hard. It's like your kids are growing. They need more things from you. Life is just really expensive. You are, as the dad, you're looking over things, managing like, is everyone okay? Is everyone safe? Do we need anything? Is everybody provided for? Over and over and over. And the thing that's great about this is if you just play it out, it's true. Like there's a day where my kids won't be in the house. My expenditure will drop by 3/4. I mean, it will be drastic. And so there's no denying that's true, which helps me because then I go, okay, I think everybody I know all of my friends do, all of them, even the ones that have plenty of money. I mean, they're still thinking about this, and so
yeah.
I think it's just, the good news is this is where you're supposed to be. The hard news is that you're there, and it's just realizing it's the burden, I think, of for me at least, of being a dad is just like Annie is prodigiously good at doing the things she's doing and concerned with the things she's concerned with. And this is the biggest thing I'm concerned with. It's just like, do we have what we need? Is everybody provided for? Is it, and it just takes a lot of my bandwidth. I mean, it's not debilitating necessarily. It can be on the wrong days. And I think when you add a career that feels like mine, it gets especially tricky, and that's where I get really envious of my friends I was talking about a good friend last night is a doctor, and I'm just like, God, doctor, and I know your days are long and I know it's hard, but man, like you can just go, this is what I'm going to make this year. And that's how we make our decisions. With me, it's like, this is what I'm going to make this year. next year could be better. I mean, that's the good thing about my career, but it could also be worse. Yeah. And so it's just hard. It's, that gets kind of tricky, but man, that's where my faith is paramount. I mean, I think that's why I value it so much. Is like, that's the only thing that gets me through these things. It's just knowing that I don't provide for me, God does. And I trust him, and it's not, I mean, he doesn't do things like I would do, but he does them better. They're just not the way I would do them. And it gives me, in the right headspace, it gives me peace knowing it will be okay. It may not go the way I want to, but ultimately it'll go the way it's supposed to, which is always the best way, So, and I trust that, but it doesn't make it all easier or the stress go away. It just helps me manage it in different ways,
I'll keep that in mind. I appreciate you sharing that because, like I said, just starting a family. So in 10 years, what will I be feeling, thinking? I had no idea. I mean, I guess in some ways I've heard that it can be the harder years, but I appreciate that perspective a great deal.
Well, it's that's why I share it, is because I think it ultimately does help knowing that, it's like, it's a little overwhelming, but it's so funny. It really does go. Isn't it crazy? Can you think of any things in your life that have such a definitive end? Is that, it's like a problematic thing that's like, no, that ends then. I mean, and, then you're worrying about how they're doing, and are they okay, and are their marriages okay if they're married? Are they ever going to get married? How are their kids? Are the kids? Right. There's always going to be something, but not like this. Not like this.
Yeah.
You don't have near the responsibility ever again that I have right now. And that's why retirement is such a hysterical thing to me. Is because you're just
it's gross.
slaving and you're slaving and you're just and then all of a sudden, you retire and it's like, God, we've just got, like, we're fine. There's just cash and we're kind of figuring out what to do with our cash and our time, and it's such a crazy concept. I mean, it's a beautiful concept in a lot of ways. It's tricky in other ways, but either way, it's a funny one because you're just like limping across the line from not even, I don't even monetarily, just life, just like job and demands and your kids. And then all of a sudden you kind of wake up one day. I mean, I look at my parents and they are living their best life. They go to Europe probably once every 9 months, and they couldn't do that growing up, like as a pastor. And now I'm like, look at how happy they are. There's no doubting this is a fun season for them. It is nothing like raising us was, which is so beautiful, but it's so crazy, because you just come from this roller coaster to like sitting by the beach on a lawn chair, You're like, this is crazy,
That is interesting. I don't know if I want that. I don't know if I ever want to retire. Maybe I'll change.
I don't even know that I will. I mean, I think that's a great thing is I don't know that you ever retire from music, but I think
true.
You have the ability to if you want to. Then get to make that choice. If you want to keep working, you can. And so, I just think that's knowing that helps me with these seasons where I'm like, it's just you got to power through. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And praying for God's grace and wisdom to navigate it well and see it for what it is, and not for the ways that I can perceive it with my really flawed vision and insecurity and all those things. So,
amen to that, man. Well,
yeah,
Dave, you are a very eloquent, very well spoken, fun to talk to person. I don't feel like I have to fill any dead space whatsoever. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's an honor to get to sit down with you for
same. Thanks
past hour and 20 minutes. But is there any question that I didn't ask that you wish I should?
This has been great. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And if anybody wants to follow you or whatever, I'll list all of your stuff. And if you have any additional links to your website, tour dates,
thanks.
if anybody's in Nashville, different stuff you got going on, make sure to list it.
It's awesome.
Cool.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening today. If you are listening still, thanks for being here. Really appreciate you taking the time to listen and consume these really meaningful conversations that I'm able to have on a weekly basis. Thank you so much to Dave as well for coming on. Really great guy. Lots of wisdom there, lots of experience, and he's got some really cool music too. So I'll make sure to list that. Check it out in the show notes. Thank you guys so much for being here. I look forward to talking to you in the next one. And do remember, whatever you can do to add joy to someone else's life, it's totally worth it. Make sure to absorb that joy from others as well. All right, I'll see you guys later. Peace.